Good evening and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jimmy Morris. This is SFR for the test races for Spain and Silverstone, I believe. A short sprint towards the Spanish Grand Prix at Silverstone, an 80-minute qualifying session for both to trial and test out who will be where for the upcoming season, for season 21, hopefully, on the new F1 regulations. My name is Jamie, as I stated, and alongside me tonight is Milan Langer. Milan, it's been a long time since we've been together, but it's nice to be back with you, mate. How are you doing?
I'm doing alright, thank you very much, and indeed, good to be back, and looking forward to the races that we're going to be seeing tonight and in the future as well. Of course, these are still test races, but still, let's see what we can have kind of races tonight. So yeah, a bit of a different format than what we've had for the past couple of weeks. So a double header tonight, 2 qualifying sessions, 2 races, they're a bit shortened, but still double the action. Hopefully it's going to be double the fun as well. But first off, there is Barcelona track that I've been to myself this year to witness Lewis Hamilton winning in a Ferrari for the first time ever. So it was quite special to be able to witness that. And let's see if we can have quite a remarkable race here tonight here at SFR as well. I highly doubt it, but still I think we're going to have at least some good fun around this track. Of course, it's no longer called the Spanish Grand Prix. It's now, I think, the Barcelona Catalunya Grand Prix. Of course, with Madrid now being added to the grid or to the calendar, which we'll be going to later this year. But in my opinion, this is still the better of the 2 Spanish tracks. But let's see what we'll be seeing tonight. First out on track, I think, is the Williams of Raz, and he is going to take us through his first qualifying attempt, and we'll see what kinds of times we'll be dealing with.
Indeed, then. So here goes the Williams. I'll talk about Williams. I think Pastor Maldonado won the last race for Williams back in Spain in 2012. What a remarkable race that was too, and certainly rememberable in that chaotic 2012 season. I believe 7 or 8 different winners in the first 8 races of the season as well. So it definitely tells you how chaotic it was. But unfortunately, we won't get something like that in the new generation of cars. We've had 3 new winners, I think, or 4 this season, which is Russell, Leclerc, Antonelli, and Lewis Hamilton. So 2 Ferraris and 2 Mercedes have both won a race. I wonder if the likes of McLaren or Red Bull of Verstappen and Norris or Piastri can win a race this season. But I've got a crazy prediction as well, and I've said it since the start of the season. My crazy prediction for 26 in real life is Liam Lawson to get a podium this season. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I can certainly feel that the Kiwi might pick up his first podium, and if he does, it's a deserved podium too, because look at the way he's driving, Liam Lawson, this season too. So I can't wait to see if that happens. But back towards the game then, Razfield getting a feel for the track on his first lap time, rounding through this slow right-hander, which I believe is called turn 12, and now picking up the throttle once again, downhill towards the final couple of corners on this racetrack. Overtake mode is available with the boost, and let's see what Raz can do. It's a 40.1, a little bit of a glitch there as it just jumped up a few tenths of a second, so he currently sets the benchmark as we got an Audi coming towards the line now. I believe that's Ivan who's starting him flying lap, or it could be Ferrari, I'm not quite sure which one it is, but I think a few people on their first laps have just invalidated Ivan. Is coming towards now the final corner on this track. Let's see what he could do. I did a 30.6 in my qualifying session with Fireblades. It was a practice qualifying session, so nobody is currently beating the 30.6 as I said, but we're quite even between first and second place there. So Ivan and Phil not separated by much there for first and second. Night Creek goes P3 with Gags KK in third and fourth place, over a second off the pace of Raz and Ivan. But to be fair, Ivan is a very quick driver, a PSGL driver indeed, and Mummy Nick goes up into P3 with a 40.2, so decent pace there for Mummy Nick. I did some practice with him and he's not looking too shabby either, with Apex George in P4 a few tenths further back. So we've got a bit of a field spread between third and fourth place. 8 tenths is the gap between those 2 cars there. Hopefully gets smaller as Adams goes now up into P4 in the Mercedes. The man picked up a podium back in Mexico the last time I commentated in S4, which was quite a long time ago. Kick Skolton is now coming towards the final corner. He has been announced as an IRT driver, so welcome to IRT Kick, but he goes P2 with a 40.1. So expected times there for the likes of Kick, Ivan and Raz, but the guys in the midfield, I dare say, are more of Div 2 pace and well out of jurisdiction from the guys in front there, so they've got a lot of pace semi-final hand. Fireblaze, a former champion in SFR and a former runner-up in season 17 and 18 as well, as we see an Alpine there just chomping the boards away. Fireblaze now makes his way towards turn 7 and 8, nicely on the power there, as it's very easy to just misjudge it and get on the curb and lose the car, as I've done plenty of times before here in Spain. His middle sector is a 52.288, which I don't think is bad, as he rounds turn 9 and a bit squirrely and a bit hesitant there on the Red Bull car, as he now makes his way towards this short round. Hand we go, back on the power once again, using the rest of the overtake he has available left to him, as he makes his way now towards the final corner. Can Fireblaze trouble Avan's time? Let's see if he does. The answer is no. It's a 40.2 there for Fireblaze as he settles in P5.
Look how close it is. The top 5 separated by 67 thousandths of a second, with Ivan currently quicker with 14.1, but then it's Kick 5 thousandths behind, and Raz 30 thousandths. Mominik and Fireblaze 600s behind as well. So incredibly close, and then it's a enormous gap to P6, with Doran 7/10 of a second behind the top 5. So we can't really explain why there's such a big gap between these drivers, but these, of course, they're still all their banker laps, so I'm sure all the drivers will be able to find an improvement somewhere around the lap throughout this session. Also, still 3 drivers who haven't set a lap time yet, which is Marco, Uriglas and Probelli in the Ferrari, who is on the lap right now, making his way through the middle sector of the lap. Let's see what he can do as he comes through the left-hander, but he goes a little bit too deep as Mominik goes quickest with a 14.1, just beating out his teammate Ivan by a couple of hundredths of a second. But well, stop the car. Mominik is on provisional pole position as it stands right now, as the Ferrari makes his way into the braking zone there of turn 10. Have to be really mindful there on throttle, especially with these new cars. When you accelerate, you get such a boost with the battery. It sometimes can be quite difficult to keep the car pointing in the right direction as he comes towards the penultimate corner. As a Red Bull coming from the off track there, as he comes towards the finish line. It's going to be a 15.1, putting himself in P9. In the meantime, Adams in the Mercedes has improved his time in P6, so he's closed the gap down just a little bit towards the top 5, but still 0.4 of a second between himself and Fireblaze, as Rasville has abandoned his lap. He's going back to the pit lane. Ivan is about to start his second flying lap of the session. Can he get back ahead of his teammate Mominik? He is about to attempt to do so as he comes across start finish line using a bit of battery heading towards turn 1, but you need to keep some in reserve as he heads towards turns 1 and 2. High across the inside curve there of turn 2. Then very tight to the inside through turn 3, minimizing the track distance. And has he found some time already in sector 1? The answer is yes. 1.5 tenths up currently on his personal best, which would be enough to beat Mominik and put himself back on provisional pole position. Looking very neat through the left-hander, very close to the Alpine on the left-hand side, as he almost hit the side, as he uses the inside curve there as well through the left-hander. Now flat out it should be through the right-hander with the right approach. Now using that straight line mode, heading towards the braking zone of turn 10, up still by 1.5 tenths of a second, but hasn't really gained much in that middle sector, but still would be enough to beat his teammate, as Marco in the other Mercedes, he has gone up to 7th place, just behind his teammate. So now every single driver in this field has set a lap time so far with 9 minutes remaining. Ivan through the final corner. Can he get himself ahead of his teammate? Yes, he can. 13.833, and becomes the first driver to get into the 113s.
Wow, what a lap time there for Ivan. Left nothing on the table at all as he was pushing through his flying lap. Apex George, 2 tenths already up in the first sector, so on course for a good lap time as the Mercedes. They're just not in the way, but a visual distraction, it must be said, as Apex George rounds turn 5. We saw George Russell and I think it was Max Verstappen made contact in 2025 last year as well. George a little bit wide through turn 7 there, so may have lost a couple of tenths in hand on his current flying lap as the DRS, or should I say straight mode, is activated going down in towards turn 10. This modified corner, I think back in 2022 when they modified it, as he's 2 tenths up. So Apex George there looking for improvements. It could put him into P6 or P7 depending if he can find more time in the last sector as he now swoops down the hill in 7th gear, back to the throttle again as he uses all the battery he has left at his disposal. Let's see where George could go. George up to P6 where I predicted, and ahead of the 2 Mercedes drivers there. So well done to George, and incredible lap time. But Marco in P8 there looked like he was going for another flying lap. He's done 3 laps on those set of soft compound tyres, and so has Mummy Nick as well, and Raz and Adams, and a couple of other people down in the midfield. So there's plenty more to come from the drivers when they bolt on a new set of soft compound tyres and lower fuel, as Atlas Copo goes P6 in the Alpine, a former champion of SFR as well in the lower divisions, and he's currently running in P6 ahead of Apex George for the time being. Then elsewhere, I think we've got Doran headed down towards turn 10. He's 2 tenths up. The Aston Martin driver, who's usually teammates. I had his name in my head now, it's just gone. Oh my goodness me, they will never forgive me for not forgetting his name. A well-known driver, his Aston Martin teammate, but I can't remember his name. It's a Scotsman, and it's just left my head. I thought about it, and it exited, so wrong time in there. Dora goes up into P7 in the Aston Martin, but I'm trying to figure out who the other driver is called, and it's such an obvious name as well. A well-known driver, but unfortunately, my brain is not really processed right now. It's got a bit haywire. But the drivers in front of the field then, like Ivan, Mummy Nick, Kick and Raz. Raz is coming through turn 7 and turn 8. He's up by a tenth of a second then as he now climbs turn 9, which should be a flat out corner, maybe a lift off to try and save a little bit of battery, headed down towards turn 10. His middle sector is going to be 1.5 tenths up. This could put him maybe in P2, maybe not enough to try and dethrone or destabilize Ivan's advantage as a fan. Oh my goodness me, a 30.516 as he raised the benchmark once again and set a blistering lap time. Here comes Raz around the final corner in the Williams. Let's see what he could do as he goes up into P2. Wow, a 30.6, and he found so much time in the last sector. Mummy Nick, a 30.6. He was the driver ahead of us in the Audi, who was just gone so much quicker. And what a lap time for the top 3. The drivers are in the 13s, mid-13s. Isavan, Raz, and Mummy Nick. Mummy Nick is really showing some potential. And for those who obviously don't know who he is a new driver. But in the leagues we've commentated against him, not against him, but the leagues we've commentated with him there, he has struggled massively. He's been a consistent driver who has been knocked out in Q1 previous times in different leagues, and sometimes scores points when other things go wrong for people ahead of him. So this new current development for Mummy Nick seems to be going really well for the young Dutchman, and maybe, just maybe on this game is where things will start to go his way and finally score some good results. He's currently in P3, and I've never seen him this high before. So I've never seen him this high before up into P3. It's such an unusual sight, but I'm really happy for him, and I really hope it's not a one-off as well, because obviously Spain is like a tested track, a well-known track for a lot of people like me. I love Spain, and my best lap time is a 30.6 as well, so I would have been probably P2, P3. But Raz and Mummy Nick are separated by 1/100th of a second, so not much between those guys there. It's so close at the top, everything to play for, as Night Creed in the Racer Ball goes P15. I'm trying to think of Doran's teammate. What's he called?
It's Mr. Wiggles, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's Wiggles. It just came back to me. It literally just came back to me. So yeah, Wiggles is not here tonight. Mr. Wiggles is not here, but a well-known driver in the paddock who's been around here for such a long time. But unfortunately, he is not rated here tonight. It's Gags KK who's replacing him in the Aston Martin Honda. But so far, Ivan is at the top.
Rasfield is on another push lap. He's improving by a tenth of a second in Sector 1 so far, so we could see a brand new provisional pole position time from the Williams as he ran out of battery going through the middle sector. But he's still up by a couple of hundredths of a second. This might be very close, but he needs to find improvement in this final sector. Needs to find some time. He's currently just over a tenth of a second behind the Audi. Let's see if he's used his battery correctly to still have some when he crosses the finish line as he comes towards the final corner. Can he find some improvement? Can he get ahead of the Audi? And the answer is not quite, because he loses all the time he gained in the final sector. In fact, he lost 0.2 of a second towards his personal best in that final sector. So probably used the battery elsewhere and then didn't have enough at the end there to find an improvement. So stays in second place right now, and I do wonder if he's got the time to go back out on track because there's only 3 minutes remaining, and he's just started his in-lap. But he's still the one splitting the two Audis. Then we've got the Red Bull duo of Kick and Fireblaze, 4th and 5th. Fireblaze earlier on was improving by 3 to 4 tenths of a second in the middle sector, but then on the exit of turn 12, he was a little bit too greedy on throttle and spun around and hit the inside wall. So unfortunately was not quite able to improve, but he knows he's got a couple of tenths of a second in hand to try and gain that on his final lap. As Ivan has gone out quite early as well. We'll be looking to find an improvement soon, just to secure his pole position, because at the moment, well, he's a bit nice. He's not quite in a league of his own, but he's showed some great pace, and I'm sure he still has some time to find in his final run as he comes towards these final two corners, preparing for his final lap. And or he might be doing just another warm-up lap. I think he is. Yeah, he is. So just going out early, but not immediately pushing. Trying to warm up his tires for a second lap, and then going flat out to try and improve his pole position time. Maminik is also out on track. Like I said, I hope this is not a one-time thing, because well, I'm quite lucky to have him as my teammate in another league. So hopefully you can transfer this good performance over to there as well. So looking forward to see what his pace is going to be like on this game. Kick has started his flying lap in the Red Bull in 4th place, although he hasn't quite, as Raz has retired from the session. Not quite enough time to go for another lap, so he'll be starting P2 at best, but there is drivers behind him who will be looking to get ahead and are quite close behind as well, so they could improve and ruin that current front row start for the Williams driver, as all of these drivers out on track, pushing, starting their final runs. Mominik has started his final run, as the Aston Martin of Gax has retired from the session as well. He will not be starting any higher than P10 on the grid. But what can Mominik do? Can he find just over a tenth of a second? Can he get ahead of Ivan? It would be so special to see him on the front row, maybe even pole position, who knows. Let's see what he can do in Sector 1, as he is currently a little bit down on his time by half a tenth of a second, but still time to be gained throughout the rest of the lap. It's all about that battery deployment and the battery management as well, even in qualifying now with these brand new regulations. Ivan has also started his flying lap, so we'll keep an eye out on what he's going to be doing as he goes through the chicane of turns 6 and 7. And this right-hander here should be flat out, and then straight mode will be activated down the back straight, as there's the Mercedes getting out of the way, out at the end of the middle sector, and he's up on his time by 600ths of a second. So a decent improvement, purple middle sector, but he needs to find at least a couple more hundredths of a second in the final sector to be able to beat the likes of Ivanov, or at least get ahead of the Williams of Raz to make it an Audi front run lock as he comes towards the final corner. Mominik, what can he do as he runs towards the finish line? The flag has fallen. It's going to be P2. He misses out by 84 thousandths of a second. It's a great effort indeed, but not quite good enough to take away pole position, as Atlas Cope improves to P4 in the Alpine. Kick is not improving. Fireblaze is still on his outlap, as it says that, but I'm not quite sure if it's actually the case. What is Ivan doing in the middle sector? He is improving by over a tenth of a second, but he hits the inside curve too much and he spins around, and that will not be an improvement for the Audi. But at the moment I don't think anyone is really putting a challenge to that, as Kick is going way too deep in towards turn 10 as well, and he will not be improving by that much. Maybe get ahead of Atlas Copper. Fireblaze improves to P4, 3 tenths of a second away from the Audi duo. What can Kick do despite that mistake in the final sector? Can he get a lead guest ahead? No, he can. Slams into the outside wall into the final corner. So P6 at best. Is there anyone else out there looking for a potential improvement? I don't think so. As Uriklat goes into the pit lane as well. So it's an Audi front row lockout. Ivan is on pole position by just under a tenth of a second ahead of Mominik. How incredible is that?
I never thought I'd see Mominik as high as P2, but he's done a wonderful job, and out qualifying the likes of Fireblaze, the champion of SFR, and Kick as well. Atlas Copo, what a great performance for him. He closed the gap significantly, and he's up there in P5. So well done to Atlas Copo for closing the gap and being so close. And Ivan says, pole to be my second lap of the day. So Ivan is very surprised at his performance there. I wish I had the pace like him. Literally, I don't think he's done any practice because he was on Minecraft when I was in the practice sessions with Fireblaze, Kick, and Mum and Nick. We were all trying to sweat it out. But Ivan was just chilling on Minecraft, and even though the practice didn't really pay off for the likes of those guys, it's Ivan who takes pole with no practice. First pole in more than 1.5 years. 1.5 years? Oh, 1.5 years. Yeah, my bad. I was reading it as 15 years for some reason. 1 point, my brain a bit scrambled, but 1.5 years doesn't count. Yes, it does count because you're still in a league, it's a high-end competition, and there was 20 drivers in the grid, so it does count, and I would count it because you're going into a race and racing. Even though it's a test, you still put it on pole position. Audi 1-2, Mummy Nick, the Dutchman in P2, Rasfield, surrounded by Dutch people around him with Ivan, Mummy Nick, Fireblazer, Kick, Alex Cooper P5, Marco P7. I'm not quite sure if it's the same Marco as before. Dora P ahead of George, Gangs KK, Adams, Klausler, Pabelli, Zenom, Prep1, Night Creed, Ferrari Fat Boy, Smooth Operator, Oil Glass, and Billy G, the Scotsman, down in P20. But I'm quite surprised about Prep1's pace because, unfortunately, well, Pabelli, should I say, the former champion of SFR in Division 3. But, sorry, my voice is already going. I don't have a good voice, unfortunately, because of my illness. So, yeah, you've got to excuse me on that. And I'm still ill. I still got an ear infection and cough and a sore throat. But you know what? I try and keep going. I haven't commentated for like 3 weeks, and I do miss it. So I'm just trying to nurse my way back into my performance and see how I do for the race. But a 17-lap race ahead of us for tonight, and we'll see who can win. Ivan versus Mum and Nick down in towards turn 1 is going to be absolutely incredible. And the trials and tribulations and the new regulations on this game is going to deliver us something different as well, because you might see some overtakes in different places, uncommon places where you don't really see them. And I know for sure that people will manage their batteries in different ways as well. So you might see people attack early on, defend earlier on, or try and save it for later. But all I know on this game, you can't dump all your ERS in one go. You can't hatch all your chickens in one go, or shall I say your eggs, I must say. Because if you do, then you're left exposed and vulnerable later. So you've got to really be sufficient on your ERS management on this game. You can't abuse it all. And the reason why is because I think the MGUH, or it's not K because K is kinetic for braking, but the MGUH, which is the turbocharger, I think that used to store extra energy in the battery system. And now it's just the MGUK because you save battery by kinetic, by braking, and therefore that's the only way you can do it now, by saving battery or lifting off with the throttle pedal as well, which you see many people do in qualifying. You'll see many people lift off before the braking zone then brake, and fuel should not be an issue at all on this game. If you don't have fuel in this game, then you must be a different breed, because all you're doing throughout the race is lifting and coasting. So it's easy to underfuel now, but if you have too much fuel in the race, that means you're considered overweight, and yeah, it won't be good. It won't be good in the long term. But we're just waiting then for the drivers to get the strategies ready and ready up as well, because we've got to wait for time to ready up. Then we get going for the feature race here, or should I say sprint race here at the Spanish Grand Prix. First introduced, I think, back in 1991. Yeah, previous to the Spanish Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher has the most poles, and Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton have the most wins now. I think Hamilton has more wins than Schumacher, as he just won here this year in 2026. What a remarkable win for Lewis Hamilton on pure pace and a bit of luck too. And sometimes you need that bit of luck to win races too. But overall, his pace was much better than Mercedes. Unfortunately, Kimi Antonelli DNF'd, and also he had a problem with the front wishbone as well, which caused him to get a 5-second time penalty. Now, my opinion on track limits these days is it's just, I'm going to say it outright, it's absolutely BS and ridiculous, because in my opinion, you should get a track limit warning if you gain advantage from it, not if you have a problem, because Kimi Antonelli obviously went off the track but gained no advantage. He was going off the track because the car wouldn't turn, and to get a 5-second penalty for that is just ludicrous. Yes, I know you got to keep it within the confines of the white lines, but if you have a problem and you're going slowly, why on earth should you get a 5-second penalty for time you've already lost? It's just bonkers, these rules nowadays. I didn't know that you could get a track limit warning just by doing that. But Lawrence Stroll I think in the main feature race, got like 5 warnings, then finally a penalty. Imagine getting a 20-minute warning once you're back in the grid. It's crazy. But for those people who watch this sprint race, you'll notice that the Aston Martins, a large Stroll, was literally going full lock on the car in cops and the other weird places too. Aston Martin is shocking. Understeers massively too, overweight, and just such a bad car. I don't know why they bothered to continue doing the season because they're so far behind and even like 1.5, 2 seconds away from like P17, P80, which is crazy. But the Spanish Grand Prix then will be underway very shortly. But of course, we do have the formation lap, which allows drivers just to calm down a little and get the temperature in the tyres ready for the main race then. So, Lance Field is on the soft compound tyres. I'm not surprised as well because, of course, it's a 17-lap race. I don't expect the hard compound tyres to be used in this race, so it's only soft or medium compound tyres. But the question is, though, which one's better? So the soft compound tyres immediately to get the jump off the line, the extra grip, a few tenths, and get ahead of your rivals, or the medium compound tyres, the mid-range tyre, which has a little bit of durability and go even longer than the soft compound tyres. So the two Audis have gone medium. Field has gone soft. He's feeling soft today. And Fireblaze is on mediums ahead of Alex Copo. Kick on mediums too. Marco, Doran, George on the soft compound tyres. Gags, Adams on the mediums. Clouster, Pabelli and Peb1 also on the soft compound tyres. Whilst Zenom, Nightcreed, Ferrari Fatboy, Smooth Operator, Oreo Glass and Billy G down there on the midi compound tyres. 20 drivers on the grid. Enichi Dan is not here. I thought he would be because I thought he said he'd be racing, but unfortunately he is not here. So neither is Keith either. So we've got 2 drivers missing, but it's all good. I don't think there's no Cadillacs here. In fact, I think Klausner is here in the Cadillac. I see. Yeah, that is the Cadillac car. But we'll see then what happens in this race. Every single driver then line up on the grid, waiting for the anticipation. We'll see who can get a good start off the line. It should be Field on those soft compound tyres. He should definitely get a good getaway on the line. But we'll see if he can try and jump both Audis headed down in towards turn. Well, that's his main priority, to overtake both Audis. And if he slips backwards, it could be even more trouble. But the start procedure is so crucial and so pivotal for your race. The qualifying is done, but the start procedure is ever so more important. Kick has been disqualified too, which is not good. But here we go then, as all the drivers then line up on the grid, ready for this Spanish Grand Prix. The last few cars have lined up on the grid. We're just waiting for the lights on the gantry. Here we go then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And we get racing here at the Spanish Grand Prix. A mega launch for Ivan and Field. Field has overtaken Mummy Nick off the line there, headed down in towards turn 1. The Williams on the outside. Can he make a lunge around the outside in towards turn 1? The answer is no, as Ivan there late on the brakes and survives and keeps his position for the time being, as we see Kick there swallowed up by Alice Copo to go wheel to wheel in towards turn 3. Fireblaze has lost a few places. He's down into P8, so it's been a shocking start for the former champion, who's now on the inside there, makes contact I think with George, as Fireblaze muscles his way up into P7, as Ivan continues to lead the Grand Prix, holds first place on those medium compound tyres. We've got a spinner further back in the field. That is probably Billy G, who was going for a spin there. There's oh my goodness me, a massive crash in the background there. The Alpine getting all out of shape in turn number 5. He looked like he hit the grass on the outside there and bounced off and hit somebody else. I'm not quite sure who else was caught up in that little incident there, as we see the Haas in the background go off the track as well. So a few drivers here struggling to get the tyres up to temperature, or struggling in general, as this is a difficult game, as the start procedure is quite difficult. But Ivan is leading in first place, but for how much longer? Because Williams is on the charge and is only 4 tenths behind, as overtake mode is available. Mo and Nick is right behind the Williams too. He lost the place. He's looking to get back one. We'll see if he can make a lunge going down into towards turn 1, but maybe a bit difficult. But the problem for Rasfield now on the soft compound tyres is stuck behind Ivan. He needs to make a push in immediately before it's too late on those softs.
Indeed, and he's putting the pressure on already. He's trying to have a look around the outside towards turn 4, but not quite close enough to make that move. Doesn't really want to risk it that early on. into this race, but he really is getting close to the back of the Audi. He's going to send one up the inside here and towards turn 5 as they go with a bit of contact as the Audi turns in, but the Williams should have the tire advantage on the exit, and Rasfiel into the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix here with 0.3 of a second behind is Ivan Dembelminek following closely in P3 as well. But now the Williams, can he build a gap over the Audis? Can he build an advantage now that he's got the tire advantage? Now he's on the softs as there is the dribble of Kick looking all over the place to try and find a way past Mominik, but has to wait for the time being as the Audi up ahead struggling as well a little bit there with the traction is Mominik, but Rasfiel will be under pressure from the Audi of Ivan, who will now have the boost mode going on to the next lap, and he probably is going to blast past the Williams down the start finish straight as we go on to a lap for the Audi on the inside, the Williams on the outside. Similar levels of ERS. Who's going to be able to break the latest in towards turn 1? It's going to be the Williams of Rasfield to maintain the lead of this race. Ivan stays in second ahead of Mominik, and Kick is going to go round the outside in turn 3. It's a beautiful move from the Red Bull, and he gets ahead there of Mominik and puts himself into the podium playing positions. Mominik staying close behind though in 4th place, still in this leading fight, and he's going to try and set up the inside in towards turn 5 side by side. But the Red Bull should have the better exit on the outside, but Mominik still keeping his nose on the inside, deploying everything off the battery as Kick almost into the back of Ivan and runs out wide and losing the position in the process. Down to P4 he goes once again. He had to take some avoiding action, otherwise he would have slanted the back of Ivan and sent the Audi spinning around. And Mominik is able to capitalize from that and then get back into P3, but he is quite low on ERS, so he's going to have to conserve a bit of that battery to be able to fight with these guys ahead as Rasfiel maintaining the lead of this race, heading towards a lap 40 gaps 0.4 of a second between himself and Ivan, who once again is going to have a go potentially down the start finish straight as he pulls into the slipstream of the Williams, who has now run out of battery. And here comes the Audi to the inside, heading in towards turn 1. And it's still the Williams looking around the outside in the background. Kick is getting back ahead of Mominik as Ivan tries to go for the switchback. Now he's on the outside, he's going to try and switch back to the inside once again. But Rasfield keeps him covered off now with the help of some battery use. He's going to go back to the inside, heading towards turn 4. And this time around, Ivan does get that position back. He finds himself back into the lead of this race. What fighting we're having between these two. And once again, the Williams looks to the inside, but he has to defend against Kick as well, who is on the outside. And is Rasfield already starting to feel the tire wear potentially, as he has to defend against the Red Bull, but stays in front for the time being. In the background there's some fighting as well with Marco and Atascopo fighting for P5 and P6 as they're doing just enough to stay within 1 second. That is Rasfield going very wide through turn 9, and that allows Kick to have a go around the outside into the braking zone. But Rasfield keeps the inside, but there's the switchback for the Red Bull. Does he have the traction? Yes he does, and it's a great move indeed from Kick, who puts himself in second place. Wow.
Holy switchback there for Kick allows his opponent to outbrake himself, and Kick just slithers around the outside, which was a lovely move now, and he's putting the pressure on Ivan in front of him. Kick knows what it feels like to win the Spanish Grand Prix. He's done it before in a different league. Could he do it again? As Ivan there is his next contender. Here comes the Audi down the inside of the Williams as he's going towards turn 1 there, side by side between the two. Nothing separating them as Mominik around the outside in towards turn 2 and has the inside line for turn 3. Great move there from Mominik. He's back where he started and now up into P2. I think he started at P2. Yeah, he started at P2, so 1 more place is behind Kick right now for first and second place. So the soft runners maybe start to feel the effects of those tyres just wearing out. And around this time, lap 5, lap 6, the tyres were about 30%. Well, 30-40%, but we did have a bit of a mess around in that practice lobby where we just take each other out, so hopefully the tyres not as bad there for Raz, but he's definitely starting to feel it. The soft compound tyres just wearing out too much. It's a brutal track for tyres, as we know. The left front tyre takes a beating and punishment. We've got turn 3 and turn 9 and turn 13 and 14, the last 2 corners on the racetrack, where the tyres feel the force and the thermal degradation gets higher and higher, which means the tyre gets hotter and hotter and the wear will start to increase as well, which is not good. But the Williams and Rasfield, they're under pressure now from Marco behind. Marco also on those soft compound tyres, but doing better than the Williams driver. Fireblaze is right behind too, and ready to capitalise the pounce on the Mercedes driver, headed down in towards turn 1. He looks for a move, but slots back into place. Marco just used the battery there to stay ahead of the Red Bull driver. The Red Bull driver keeps on harassing him through the corners, and Kick is right behind too of Ivan. I thought for 1 second he might go down the inside in towards turn 4, but not to be the case on that occasion. We see many drivers there chopping and changing the bit here to get past, pass and repass every single time. And Fireblaze will try his chances. Ivan the outside towards turn 5. No way, surely, but with a better grip on those medium compound tyres, is still there level pegging with the Mercedes. Around the outside towards turn 7, and what a neat and tidy move there for Fireblaze. A great move, as we know Fireblaze usually does. Aggressive on the outside and made it stick, and now he's progressed up into P5, and next target is the soft runner of Rasfield. I wonder how long are these soft runners going to take this, because surely now you think about pitting on those soft compound tyres, you might run out of laps to do so to be in the mediums then. So you think that the soft compound tyres might just dive off into the pit lane at the end of this lap potentially? Nope, they're still going around. Do you have to pit on this format? You don't really have to pit the sprint race, but obviously kind of soft compound tyres go that distance. Klausler is now in the pit lane. He's on the softs too, and he's finally had enough of those soft compound tyres. Prep 1 further back in the background is also pitting. Those soft runners at the start are starting to pit as well to get off those and put the medium compound tyres on. We've got plenty of soft runners in the pack, but still, it is Ivan who is holding his own in first place. Kick is on the back of him, but Kick, we know, is an experienced league racer. We know he doesn't go for it straight away. He holds back, he thinks about the long game, and doesn't rush into it either. He's got a calm head on young shoulders. These two are highly experienced, and they're both in the same team, IRT, so they definitely they definitely know each other for a long time and know each other's capabilities and strengths and weaknesses. But Mummy Nicky P3, unfamiliar territory. Mummy Nicky P3, I bet he's quite surprised to be up this high. Ever since I've commentated with Mummy Nick, he's never been so high. The highest he's finished like P5, P6, but that's when other people retire. But he's running genuinely in P3 on raw pace, which is super nice to see from the Audi driver, progresses so nicely as well. As we got Ivan, who is in the pit lane as well, so the medium runners didn't really go as long as soft runners, and some soft runners are still out there as well, which is quite surprising. So Ivan has called the shots early to go on a soft compound tyre, and here comes Nick right behind Kick, but not going to go for the move towards turn 1. I'm quite surprised to see Marco, Raz, and the other people in soft compound tyres are still out there. Surely you think they pit?
Or we're surprised that Ivan is pitting so early, because you would think he would go from mediums to softs, but he is going from mediums to hard. So I wonder if these guys at the front are going to try and go towards the softs, or if they will be putting into the pit lane at the end of this lap to try and respond and go to the hard tires as well. Not quite sure which tire is preferred around there, as Mominik has a massive moment there on the exit of turn 5 as he starts to struggle with the rear end of the car as well, and the gap towards Kick is starting to grow now to almost over 1 second, meaning he would lose out on the boost mode on the following lap unless he can stay within that 1 second window, which he's doing at the moment. But here comes Rasfield with the overspeed, having a look on the inside, but not much more than that, and will stay behind for the time being, as Dominic with a good exit there out of turn 9 or turn 10 it is. He gets back within 1 second, and I think he should be able to have that boost mode for you still for the next lap. But he's going to pull the pit in as well, and so is Kick. So these medium runners going towards the hards rather than the softs, as Rasfield and Marco also to the pit lane. Unsurprisingly, Fireblaze is going to stay out, of course, because his teammate is in the pit lane. He doesn't want to double stack. So is he potentially going to be the one to try and go towards the softs for his second stint, because we're halfway through the race right now. If he can extend just the 1, 2, 3 more laps, then I think he definitely will be able to make it on the end on a set of softs. But where are Kick and Monik going to come out compared to the other out of Ivan? He is going to be ahead, Ivan. He's also just ahead there of Nightcreed. He goes quite deep in towards turn 1, but he's got a car between himself and the Red Bull and his teammate, which could be an advantage for Ivan. But here comes Kick, having a look around the outside of turn 3. But he doesn't have the boost. But here he comes to the inside though, as the RB has run out of battery, and Kick slides his way through. And oh, Mominik laps a look on the inside, but the RB did not expect the Audi to be there, and he turns in, and there's contact between the two. And Nightcreed has gone off track. Mominik made contact as well. Don't think he's got front wing damage, but he has lost quite a bit of time because of that moment. It was just so unexpected for Nightcreed that the Audi was there suddenly on the inside. Unfortunately, they have collided, and they did make contact. What is Fireblaze doing? He's going to the pit lane as well. At the end of lap 9, he's playing it safe, just like everyone else. At the scope of the pit lane as well in the Alpine, and probably Gax and Xenon, or Gax is staying out in the Aston Martin, so maybe we finally have someone who is going to try and go towards the softs, and Xenon staying out as well. The only 2 drivers still out there. That's not true actually. Eric Glass in the Cadillac is still out there as well, and Night Creep, he is going to pull into the pit lane after that moment. And Atlas Copo has gone to the softs, so that is quite early. Fireblaze onto the hard, they're pitting on the same lap, but Atlas Copo thinks he can make it to the end on those softs, but he's probably going to feel the effects of the tire wear in the last few laps of this race. Fireblaze comes out in P7, a second behind Razville, and Mominik, and Raz is going to go to the inside of the Audi of Mominik in towards turn 4, and he will take away that position, which is going to be P3 virtually, because Gax and Xenon still have to make their pit stops. So Ivan is back out in the virtual race lead, ahead of Kick by half a second. Then it's a little bit of a gap towards Razville, who is on the mediums, so he should have an advantage over these guys. But let's see how long that advantage will last, because eventually his tires will start to wear out by the end of this race. But he has done a good job to get himself well within 1 second to be sure of that boost, but he could try and start attacking these 2 up front. Mominik following in P6, and Fireblaze has also got within 1 second, so the top 5 back close with each other as the Aston Martin of Gax and the Alpine of Xenon finally pull into the pit lane as well to make their scheduled pit stops, and they potentially could go on to a set of soft tires. We're going to lap 11 of this race. It is Ivan back out in the lead by half a second ahead of Kick.
I don't know if you noticed me, lad, but when I go on board with these drivers, the rear wing is not opening. So hopefully that's not an issue for the drivers there indeed. But yeah, the rear wings are not opening. I think they are open because obviously you don't get that. You don't get the type of speed down the straight if the rear wing and front wing aren't open. Yellow flags in the background. Is that Bilici who's going for a spin there in the Haas? It could be. I'm not quite sure who it was, but the 2 Racing Bulls close in battle. That's Night Creed and Smooth Operator down in P7 to P18. One's on the soft, and the other one is on the hardcore power tyre, and they're scrapping out for P18 indeed. So they've got their own little private battle going on there between those 2. As Alio Glass is under pressure from Doran. He's still out there. There's been a couple of tyres there, so struggling on the mediums as Doran is right behind with the boost. And hopefully the rear wing open too. Will he go down the inside towards turn 10? He doesn't, so Oil Glass stays ahead. But there's been contact between the 2 as Oil Glass goes wide there through turn 10. But I've got to go back to the front because these guys are super close now. This is the battle for the lead of the race between Kick, Ivan, Raz, Mominik and Fireblaze. The top 5 been left alone in this race to scrap it out. And let's see if Kick goes for an overtaking towards turn 1. He doesn't. Razville is on the mid-car power tyre, so theoretically he's on the better tyre again in comparison towards the guys on the hard tyres because he was on the softs. And here comes Kick around the outside now. I thought for 1 second he did it, but he didn't. Taking different lines there through turn 3. But Kick stays behind on this occasion, just sizing the van up, just waiting for the right moment. Doesn't want to pounce too early, just in case the van gets the boost on the last laps and overtakes him as well. But one thing to watch out for Kick is Razville in P3, because Raz is on the mid-car power tyres. Much better tyre than the hard, and it should be good at this stage, more grippier. And at this stage of the race, it should be his territory. So we'll see if Raz can capitalise on these big compound tyres and try and force his way through on Kick and Ivan. He had the soft compound tyres early doors on his car. But this time he has the mediums, and the mediums should be able to make the distance with the grip towards the end. So watch out for him. He could be a threat. He is a threat right now, and sitting comfortably in P3. And Mominik once again. Oh, Kick goes off the track in the final corner. Will that give all the impetus? The Williams needs to get past him in towards turn 1. Let's see now. Here comes Williams. He pulls to the left, pulls to the right. But on this occasion, he does not go for the move. He stays in P2. Kick had the areas covered the inside line and didn't allow Raz to go anywhere as he was in the middle of the road there. So Kick's mistake cost him dearly, but luckily he's still in P2 and still hunts down the van. The understeer you can counter through the final corner is horrendous, so watch out for that as well. The top 5 are super close. Down the inside goes Raz on turn 5, but stays behind. That's if he makes a lunge towards turn 5, surely not. Down the inside towards, this is risky. It's a risky move. Contact could be made, but this time doesn't make contact. Raz is trying to pull an overtake everywhere, and Kick would not be happy with that at all, seeing the Williams driver all over the back of him. And here comes Kick then. He finally overtakes the van going down in towards turn 10. There's a bit of a shove pass there for Kick on Ivan as they still remain in battle. Through turn 11 we go. Kick hanging around the outside there, but Ivan squeezes him out as Kick has a little bit of a wobble too at the exit there as well. This is a great scrap. Great respect between those two, as we know, as they've known each other for such a long time. Here comes the Audi behind the Williams of Mum and Nick. Kick this time. Will it dare go down in your side of Ivan in towards turn 1? The Williams getting closer, the Audi getting closer, the Red Bull in the background getting closer. That is Fireblaze inching towards the Audi too. So this is an incredible scrap. Alas Copo has fallen away. He's into P6 on the soft compound tyres, but I've got to watch out for the guys in front as they still battle away for P6 and P7. And Apex George trying to reclaim the position he just lost against Alice Copo as they now file their way through turn 4 we go, still wheel to wheel. But Raz, I feel like he's going to go down the inside. Almost did. He was there, but couldn't quite pick the move stick still. He's been trying desperately down the inside of turn 5. It's been his favourite move, like Kobayashi back in 2012 when he went down the inside a couple of times on a few people too. But this time, for Razfield had to hold back and still can't make the lunge. This is a great scrap in bowling between the guys at the front of the field here as well. So all Kick's going for the move in the same place on the last lap, but this time can't get it done. Around the outside there won't work because eventually you will run out of room and road and end up in the gravel, so it's a bit like that one. But on this lap, Ivan might be under massive pressure from Kick right behind. Let's see if Kick makes a move on the main straight. This beautiful helicopter camera, this giving some good images as we head down towards turn 9. Kick is still not going for the move there, just waiting. He knows how to play this game. He's been on it for a long time. He's waiting for the last lap to get the overtake on him in towards turn 1 and pull away with the overtake he has. But he's got to watch out for Raz behind him. Every time Kick doesn't make a move on Ivan, he has to watch out for the guy behind him, which is Raz, who is all over the gearbox of the Red Bull too. So Kick is having to work double time here. Defend in behind him and attack in front of him as well, but he's doing such a remarkable job as well. Keeping Ivan in front of him and keeping Raz behind him exactly where he wants to be in the last few laps of this race, Milan.
He's also not getting quite close enough on the start-finish straight. He's using his battery just like Ivan, and in the slipstream he just doesn't quite get that overlap that he wants. As we see Fireblaze having half a look on the inside of Mominik as he's getting impatient as well, sitting behind these guys. It is about to get very close on these final 3 laps of the race. I say final 3 laps, final 2 laps of this race. Now Ivan, he's got a 2/10 lead over Kick, and look how close Razfield is once again as well. As Kick goes slightly wide, this opens the opportunity for Razfield to potentially have a go at the Red Bull. Down the start-finish straight, it's going to pull to the inside. It's going to be wheel to wheel between Kick and Razfield. It's going to be good news for Ivan as we go side by side into the braking zone. The Williams later on the brakes, Kick around the outside though, but he hits the curb on the exit, and now the Williams will try and go for the switchback, but Kick successfully defends against the Williams, who's now going to have a go once again with the help of his battery, as Ivan is able to recharge his battery quite nicely indeed then, with those guys fighting right behind him, as well. Nick also has half a look at the inside of the Williams, but just not quite close enough to make that move. Now who is going to be the one ahead of the field? Is Ivan going to stay in that position? Here goes the Williams once again on the inside, and that just not doesn't quite work out. With Kick with a good exit there, is able to stay in front of the Williams, who's getting really impatient at this stage of the race, using all of his battery to try and find a move on the Red Bull, but he won't be able to, as Kick is very close to the back once again of Ivan. But Ivan is going to be the one ahead of the field, so he was going to be the one struggling with straight line speed the most, because everyone else behind him is going to have that boost mode onto the final straight of the final lap. It's 1/10 of a second separated, but Kick needs to get a good exit out of the final corner, which he does, and Ivan does not. And here comes the Red Bull now with the help of Slipstream and Boost Mode. They're going to go side by side, and it's Red Bull to the inside, but Ivan still has that straight line speed advantage somehow, and is going to pull back in front of Kick, who cannot make the move, and Ivan still leads this race.
Oh my goodness, this is incredible. Ivan is holding on for dear life against Kick, but Kick tried different ways to get past him. Where is the main place? We saw how strong Kick is towards the last sector. Look at this, that's Fireblaze on the inside of Nick, who locks up and goes a bit wide, or very wide indeed, and Fireblaze takes away P4 as well. So Nick there has shuffled from P2 to P5. It was an Audi 1-2, but there's still an Audi leading this race. But for how much longer? We've seen how gracefully kick his through the final sector. He is super close every time. I wonder, can the next lap or this lap, can he get closer and closer to overtake him? But Ivan is trying to stretch away, and Rasfield, despite all his efforts, despite all of his attempts, he's unsuccessful in trying to overtake. But look at this, like I talked about, kick is super close, but gets a wobble on here. But can he somehow force a way through Ivan? Ivan has been such a great defender in this race, and I don't think there's any way for Kick to make a move on the inside here. But down the inside goes Fireblaze. He's super close, and Ivan wins the Spanish Grand Prix. Wow, unbelievable indeed. This has been a breathtaking Spanish Grand Prix with action absolutely everywhere you go. Rasfield at P3, Kick P2, Fireblaze P4 ahead of Mummy Nick, and Rasfield almost lost a podium there too. George P6 ahead of Atlas Copo, Marco and Pabelli, Chrysler runs for the top 10, Gags KK, Adams, Prep 1, Doran, Zenom, Oreo Glass, Night Creed is in battle with the Cadillac. They're trying to go around the outside, but doesn't quite have the grip to get past him on that occasion. He's super close. Can he go around the outside and towards the final corner? Nope, Oreo Glass there just maintains his position for the time being as they come around the corner. And it's successful that all 20 drivers made it through. No retirements in this race. And Adams finishes P12. I forgot to mention, because there's been so much action in this race, that something happened to Adams on the first lap. He pitted at the end of the first lap, changed his wing, and fallen down into P20. So he could have been that Mercedes who got caught up in the contact in turn 5 on lap 1. It's a shame for Adams there. Great qualifying, but still persevered in this race to finish in P12, and not the result he would have wanted, but a great recovery indeed for the Scotsman. But that's the end of Spain. Should we go one more time, Milan, for Silverstone?
Definitely. Silverstone is a much more of a different track compared to Spain. Like we saw last weekend at the British Grand Prix, that track is certainly going to be more harsh on the battery. It's going to be all about battery management, because Silverstone, unlike Barcelona, doesn't really have any hard braking zone. Well, it's got turn 3 and the final chicane, but besides that, it is almost all of the flat out or medium to high speed corners, and that's just so difficult to recharge the battery. So it's going to be even more difficult, and we'll see how these drivers are going to be able to perform in that. But for this race, it is Ivan who is able to stay out in front. But with how close the top 5 is, it's going to be really difficult to replicate that, especially around such a difficult track with these brand new regulations. But I'm definitely looking forward to the race at Silverstone, just because how close it has been between these top 5 drivers, and behind in the midfield there's been incredible battles as well. So I'm sure we're in for yet another great race.
Silverstone is coming up. Me and Milan will take a short break before qualifying starts in Silverstone. Hello everyone, did you miss us? Welcome back to SFR again. We have barely had any time to catch our breath after an incredible race in Spain, and now we're straight into the second half of this double header as we now arrive at this legendary Silverstone circuit for this 13-lap sprint and another short qualifying. And Spain, well, everything for the entire race, fighting wheel to wheel, it gave us everything, swapping positions, and drivers refusing to give each other an inch as well. Ivan found himself under relentless pressure from start to finish, with Kick glued to the back of his Audi lap after lap, and despite having overtake mode available and several opportunities to overtake, Kick simply couldn't find a way past as Ivan defended brilliantly to take the victory, less by the 3/10 of a second, and it's one of those races where every corner matters as well. Now, we're heading on towards Silverstone, a challenging circuit, a completely different spectrum at the Spanish Grand Prix, one of the most fastest and most iconic circuits in the calendar, in the home of motorsports. And first introduced in 1950, the track was built on a former World War II airbase and now becomes a legendary circuit with corners like Abbey, Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, and Stowe, where speed and precision matches through the corners too. And now with short qualifying, there is little room for error. One mistake, one track limit violation, or anything else can lead to bad starting position. But Silverstone really disappoints as well. So after incredible battling in Spain, can we transition over to Silverstone and hopefully have a spectacular race? As you know, it's me and Milan here in the commentary box, so I don't need to introduce ourselves again. But we're just looking for the first driver out on the circuit, and I believe it is a Red Bull driver in the name of Fireblaze, a well-known driver in the paddock. He's been around us so far since season 16, I think, when he made his debut back at the Spanish Grand Prix. He picked up a podium in Spain, and in the same season got his first win in Mexico when I was his teammate for a one-off appearance. He's been a runner-up previously to Canaan, P2, and 2 seasons later, before he finally won his first championship for SFR, and he's taken many wins under his belt too. And this circuit as well is special to me because in SFR, I meant because about 7 or 8 years ago, I took my first podium in SFR when I was a driver here, and it was such a difficult race indeed because there were so many quick drivers in this bunch in Division 1, when it was called GP1 back then for SFR, and it was so hard. Me, Laser, and other people who you still know were at the back most of the time, but when it came to Silverstone, I was started P16 and finished P3 as well. Fireblaze swoops through 2 on the turn 2, down towards the braking zone, lift off Lyco through turn 3, slides his way through turn 3 in third gear, coming towards turn 4, down through second to get the extra rotation and retardation of the engine. Now back on the power, using the overtake available to him, down to 60%, but he's using all the battery. My advice is going down to 70% out of turn 5 through the loop. Now coming down to Brooklands and Luffield, these sequence of corners where it can be difficult as well, and traction can be a pain on the backside here too. Myself, who has driven around the circuit on this new regulation, has struggled especially with the battery, and the car continues to step out. Lift off through cops, you've got to lift off to manage ERS, so it is flat out. You can take it flat out, but in terms of managing battery, you've got to lift off slightly so you can store some extra battery in the recovery system. As we now flick our way through Chapel we go, this tricky little corner where some people get caught out, including myself, because it's such a quick corner and it's easy to understeer, as it's a lot of steering input as well. The tyres are also very hard to stage. Through Stowe we go, goes wide, understeers, but luckily for him stays on the track, coming down towards the final 3 corners on this racetrack. I don't like these corners because you've got to mount the curbs, be careful of traction. Fireblaze heads towards the line. It's a 27.988 as the benchmark for the rest to beat.
Certainly looked like a good lap to me. We're a little low on the battery towards the end of the lap. Still a very decent bank lap it is, as Rasfield and the Williams, he goes second, 28.3, so a couple of tenths of a second away. Of course, you still have to wait for the 2 Audis and Kick to come through. Dominic has just started his flying lap, making his way through the first couple of corners, but clubbering across the inside curbs there, so definitely not the ideal line for him to take. We'll wait for Ivan, who's about to start his his first flying lap right now. So his Kick, but the laps are starting to come in. Probelli is gone P3. but he's in the 29, so is Adams in P4, Apex George, as well as Gax KK goes P3, still in the 29s as well, so it looks like we might have a similar fight for the race win between the same drivers that we had in Barcelona. Quite a significant gap between them, as that is an Alpine up ahead. Spinning off ahead of the Aston Martin of Gax, it was Xenon, unsurprisingly, as he goes for a spin through turns 2 and 3, but Ivan right behind now, starting his flying lap, as Mominic's actually towards the end, but I don't think his lap time will be any representative, as Ivan goes for a spin on the exit there of turn 5, as he was just a little bit too eager on throttle, and that is not the ideal line to take, as he went fully around there, and unfortunately has to try again, but he's got the time to do so with this 18-minute qualifying session. What about Kick then in the Red Bull, as he makes his way through Lovefield and on to the back straight there towards Cobb's corner. Not using too much battery at this point. The question is how close it's going to be towards Fireblaze. That's going to be his main opponent. Leaves some margin there on the exit of Cobb's, now heading towards Maggot, Beckett and Chapel, having a bit more battery to his to use compared to Fireblaze, who was already running out of battery right at this point, as he makes his way down the hangar straight, using the battery completely, burning it through 0%. As Mominic does go second, regardless of his poor first sector, 28.2, definitely not a bad lap at all. As Kick towards the final sector, can he get ahead of Fireblaze? Can he put himself at least on the front row for the time being? As accelerates out of the front court, what's it going to be? For the second, it's going to be 27.810, and Kick puts his Red Bull on provisional pole position. Is Ivan going to start on a lap? Yes, he is in the second Audi. So right now, a Red Bull front row lockout just ahead of Mominic. Here comes the second Audi of Ivan.
Let's see what the Audi could do heading through turn 1 and turn 2. Poor Nico Hulkenberg too, but unfortunately retired from the British GP after taking his first maiden podium in Formula 1. They're retiring 1 year later as the power unit just cut out as well. Look how wide Ivan is through the entry of turn 3 and turn 4. Gives it a wide berth on the entry. Now power the throttle down where he spun on the last lap at turn 5. Coming through Brooklyn as we go now, 10.3 seconds up in the first sector. Marco goes up into P3 in the Mercedes at 28.202 and ahead of Mominic. He had an impressive performance back in Spain as well, but he wasn't quite there just yet in Spain. But I wonder if his pace differs from here to Silverstone. Ivan flicks it through Cobb's corner we go in 7th gear on the power all the way headed down towards Lovefield. Maggots and Beckett says sweeping through these corners and just nice swoop of the steering wheel. Try not to have too much hesitation or too much steering input, because that'll unset the car and obviously go for a spin like Colin Pinto did in qualifying. Here comes the Van now through Stowe we go, flicks the car in, hooks the inside line and will go out wide towards exit 2. And now this tricky final breaker zone on the corner. He got to be very careful indeed, very mindful on the throttle, because he got to treat it like there's an egg underneath the throttle pedal. Here comes the Van. Van goes P2, a much better lap time on those soft compound tyres. His second lap on those softs with a 27.961. I wonder if a few drivers might learn from the previous session, because I'm presuming that the people that started the soft compound tyres saved a set of softs for the race, and that's why we saw the people who went from mediums to hards didn't save a set of soft compound tyres during qualifying, and that's why they went to the hard compound tyres and pitted early than expected. So I wonder if a few people may learn from that and use the soft compound tyres. It is a practice race, there's nothing on the table, there's no championship. Of course, pride, ego as well, that's always on the table, and always wants to prove that you're better than other people, so that's always there to be considered as well. Of course, every single one of us are competitors. We all want to do well regardless if it is a practice race or not. We just want to show what we could do to the rest of the people. As Rasfield through turn 6, well, I think it is Luffield Woodcut, now on to the Hamilton, the short straight, headed down in towards Cobbs. The old layout, I think the old layout was last used back in 2008 or 9, I believe it was. Now coming through Maggots and Beckett as we go through Chapel, and we'll see how neat and tidy he can be through this session. His middle sector is going to be a 3.7, so 1 and a bit tenths up there. Rasfield is on course for a decent lap time, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near Kick, Ivan and Fireblaze. Those three are on the 27s, and Fireblades is out there once again as Kick goes quicker. That is a 27.535 on the same set of the softcore power tyres. Here goes Raz towards the final corner. What can he do in the Williams? He goes P4. Look at that, 27.999 there. So what a lap time there for Razfield. Fireblaze is down in the first sector by a tenth of a second and in the middle by 2.6 seconds. So clearly he has abandoned that lap time. Apex George was almost 3/10 up in the first sector, but just invalidated somewhere on his flying lap. You don't really see many invalidation. Well, you do actually, because I managed to do it. So I was in the practice session with these guys, and for some unknown reason, I never had this problem before. I kept invalidated through turn 1 on my runs, and it was so infuriated, so frustrated, and I started invalidating in random places too. I'm not quite sure why, if I was turning it too early, or just what it is that I'm just too focused on the battery, when to use it. Sometimes on my qualifying laps, I can be too distracted on my battery of knowing when and where to use it, instead of my fly lap itself, and therefore I just miss the corners and not think about the braking points as well. So that could be another factor. Drivers heavily focused on the battery and where to use it, but some drivers are better than others and could just overly focused in general. Prep 1 coming through cops now, flying through there in 30th place in the Ferrari. He was fighting with his teammate of Probelli. Probelli and Prep 1 together in the Ferrari, as he uses a lot of curves there, doesn't he, going down in towards Beckett, but his sector split is going to be a 5.3, so only just a few hundreds up in the sector there for Brad 1, who's looking to try and get himself inside the top 10. There's quite a massive field spread. There's guys in the 27s, 8s, 9s, and 30s, and elsewhere too. So there's a massive field spread from the guys at the front of the field to the guys at the back of the field, which gives the guys behind a major disadvantage. But this is not the real championship, luckily. So thankfully it's not. Here comes Brad 1. He puts himself in 12th place with a 29.807. Apex George coming through turn 4 with the DRS straight mode wide open. Do you know what? It still catches me out that I say DRS, the straight mode, but Apex George is down the first sector by 300 of a second as he hooks the inside of Luffield. I think Fireblaze has gone P2, so it's a Red Bull 1-2 between Kick and Fireblaze, and it's so weird to see these two as teammates. They never ever are teammates in other leagues, but here they are. And for those who don't know the backstory, those two had a massive rivalry, and they didn't really hate each other, but they disliked each other and had a bits of problems in the chat with each other years ago. And it used to be a massive, intense rivalry between Fireblaze and Kick. And now, luckily, those two are friends, and they do communicate indeed. But it got so heated as well that they started throwing accusations to each other, and yeah, Heckles will win it now towards the final 3/4. I can't really think of the words because I'm ill, but I'll try and explain more about it later. But my Nick, this is going to be pole, and it is a 27.431. I didn't know it was going to be pole. I just said it, and it happened. I guess what? I just connected. Lovely.
That is very nice indeed, but well, Dominic taking pole position so casually right now. Whilst we know how much he's been struggling on recent games, but now he just puts his Audi on the front of the field and potentially to pole position, but he's only got 1/10 of a second ahead of Kick, who we know has been very quick indeed as well. So he'll be looking to try and find improvement. But what a lap indeed it was then from Mominik, 27.431. Let's see if it's going to be enough to take away that pole position, or could Kick ruin his day and take that pole position right back, because Fireblaze is a good 0.3 of a second behind in B3. Ivan is 0.5 of a second behind. He's currently on a lap, but he's down by 2.5 tenths in the middle sector, so I don't think it is going to be an improvement unless he has a magical final sector, but even then it won't be enough to get ahead of Fireblaze, and he is going to pull back into the pit lane. With only a handful of minutes remaining in this session, they will be preparing for their final runs. In fact, just under 4 minutes remaining. Probelli is on the lap, and he's improving by 5/10 of a second, which could gain him, one position maybe. Probably one position ahead of Gax, but he is a full 1 second ahead of B6, whilst he's in B8. Unless he has a great final sector, I don't think it's going to be any more than B7 for the Ferrari driver who comes around the final corner. It's going to be an improvement, and it is going to be P7 with 5/10 found in that final sector as well. But as Adams goes P8 in the Mercedes, 1.6 seconds behind though, on pole positions, definitely looks to be once again a 5-way fight. So Marco is not too far behind, 7/10 of a second. It's just that Mominik and Kick are just that far ahead of the rest of the field. Fireplace a few tenths behind, and Ivan as well. It's a bit more spread out than qualifying was for the Spanish GP, but I'm sure in the race it'll be quite close as well with the battery management. Rasville has started another flying lap. He's currently in P5, and with a minor improvement could put himself on the second row. And with a great improvement, he could put himself in P3, and he finds just over a tenth of a second in Sector 1, so decent start to his flying lap. Let's hope he doesn't run into any traffic. A few cars up ahead, but let's hope to get out of the way. The Alpine does there on the right hand side now through Cops Corner. Bit of a lift to preserve the battery there as well. And now heading towards Maggots and Beckett's, where you really can't really conserve any battery at all because it's such high speed. You barely lift at all through these corners. And now on to the Hangar Straight with straight mode now activated. He's up by just under a tenth of a second, so at least I think he will be able to get ahead of Ivan. But Fireblaze is going to be a bit more tricky because he needs to find at least 2/10 in this final sector as he makes his way out there of Stowe and towards the final braking zone through Club and Vale. And let's see what it's going to be for the Williams who was on the podium in the Spanish Grand Prix. It's going to be P4 with well, only a few hundredths of a second found, but he is ahead of Ivan. But I'm sure Ivan has got some time to find on his run because the winner of the Spanish Grand Prix and right now is half a second behind on provisional pole position, and Marco in the Mercedes currently down on his time in first sector.
Oh, I said Polo.
Oh, I know, it just caught me completely off guard there, as it was quite loud in my ears, so I didn't really know, but alright then, but Marco doesn't find an improvement right now in the middle sector, but with 1 minute to go, can Mominik hold on to that pole position? They're all out on their out laps and preparing for their final runs, or is something that Kik could do to deny the other driver his first pole position in a long time?
Yeah, I've been waiting to say that for a long time. But yeah, we've managed to get you, and to good effect as well. But yeah, now back in the session. Mominik, incredible lap time. Oh. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to hear a lot of that, hopefully not in the future, but I will get better soon. So, on board with Mominik on his last flying lap through turn 1, downshifted to 7th gear to keep the revs high. Through turn 2, now the breaker starts. Lift and coast through the corners to try and save some battery. Not as wide as a few other people did on their last runs, as coming through turn 4, turn 5, the loop. Now on towards the Hangar Straight we go. Wellington Straight, sorry, this is the Wellington Straight. Coming through Brooklands, let's see his first sector down by 300 per second. He was a bit messy there in turn 4 and turn 5, but can he keep it nice and tight through turn? Luffield we go. I don't really know the track by corners, only the numbers. I don't know by numbers, only by the names. There's obviously his Cops Corner. She used to be flat out, but of course some people do lift off there to try and save a bit more battery. Now we flick our way through Maggots, Beckett's, the most known iconic corners on the track and in the world as well. Nice sweeping through corners, downshift into 5th gear, back of the power once again. It's a 3.5, so he has lost a bit of time through this final sector, but crucially he can find more time in the last sector because it's a slow speed corners where you do find the time the most. Qualifying has come to an end then. We'll see if Mominik could try and extend the bar once again as he's coming through the final 3 corners on this racetrack we go. A bit wide through there too, but can he raise the bar? The answer is yes, he can. It's a 27.400 and Kik is on a flyer. Let's see if Kik can try and take Paul away. He can. It's a 27.298 for Kik. Fireblaze is the one left. Let's see what Fireblaze can do. Fireblaze towards the line, and it's not. It is an improvement, but not his position. Ivan couldn't cook anything up either. It's a 27.822 for the Audi driver, but it is Kik on pole position. It's a Red Bull Audi that separates the top 4, but Raz in P5. But that was a mighty qualifying session indeed. I thought we were about to see a Nick pole position, but we were denied by Kik as well. But Kik a strong, incredible driver indeed, is the young Dutchman. Rasfield, the Brits, there's no Brits though, unfortunately, so we have been beaten by the Dutch people. But the Brits of Rasfield in P5, Marco P6 ahead of Probelli, Atlas Copo, Adams, the Scotsman in P9 ahead of Gags, Klaus, the Dutchman in P11 ahead of Dorman and George. So what's happening with the Brits there? Not really doing us any favours, but the Norwegians too, of Probelli, Atlas Copo, Preb 1 and Zedum. There used to be a lot of Norwegian drivers here, there still is, but of course some of them have decided to have taken a sabbatical because obviously this game is not really like to the standards, and other people as well have different commitments. But yes, I used to love it when I used to miss it when there were loads of Dutch people, Norwegian people, because they really did help the community a lot, and they really did bring us some good racing too, with a lot of Norwegian influence and Scandinavians here too. As you can tell, my voice is going because I am ill. It's been really hard to commentate, but hopefully in the next 13 laps, we could try and make something special here in Silverstone for one last time. And unfortunately, I got to announce this now that I don't think I'll be here for the rest of the season, or when the season starts, because obviously it's a Monday and Tuesday, and unfortunately I got commitments on Mondays and Tuesdays too. So it's going to be a shame if I have to announce it here that I probably will not be commentating for SFR no longer. And it's been a real pleasure, I've had me since 2020. I've been a racer back in 2019, but then I became a commentator at the end of 2022 here. It's been a long journey, many ups and downs, thrills and spills, many great iconic moments, great drivers became champions, and so many memorable moments too to go with it. And it's been an absolute joyous and pleasure to be here to commentate, not only for Division 1, but I did Division 2 at the same time, did what I did too. And yeah, when it was its peak, when SFR was at its best, it was absolutely amazing to commentate. But unfortunately, in every single league and game period, there will be a downfall spiral with the game and other people losing their motivation, not committing either. And that's been the story so far in SFR. We've tried so hard to try and bring the league back, but sometimes you can only do so much. And unfortunately, it is the way it is. And I really hope for SFR that you can still be a great league and still have the numbers and try and be back up there. But yeah, I think me, Fireblaze as well, I think we'll both be leaving. And Fireblaze has been there since season 16 as well, and he's also been an incredible member of SFR who's uplifted the league and helped it stabilise too when he became the main admin for it in Division 1 and the champion too. So yeah, Fireblaze will be a dearly missed member too, but I'll still be with him in the other league we're going to, or staying at, as Milan knows. But this 30-lap race, hopefully we'll get ahead soon. And I'll let you guys know as well when the season will be announced for the other league of commentating. And when I do, hopefully it will be the last one. But of course, I've got other commitments. So it's been a shame, but it's the way it is, unfortunately. The days are different in different leagues. Times are different as well. Things are changing massively as well. But overall, I've really enjoyed my experience in SFR and Division 1 with numerous different commentators like Mansell, Oliver, Daniel, and a lot of other people too I've commentated with. And I won't forget you, but obviously I can't name you right now because there's been so many of you. But yeah, the commentary team isn't as big as it used to be. But hopefully you'll find some different commentators who will definitely do a great job, as I do, as I know I will do as well. But yeah, that's the soliloquy rant over. It's just time for the race. If the drivers do decide to ready up and get this 13-lap race done and dusted, it's going to be a great one between Kick, Fire, Feel, Mum and Nick, and also Fireblaze, Evan as well, the top 5 drivers going out. And hopefully as well, when I commentate next time, I won't be ill. So for those who are wondering, I suffered an ear infection last week when I was in the Netherlands. It was absolutely horrible. I woke up one day and my ears were pounding and I lost my hearing. I couldn't hear anything. I still can't hear anything either. So the volume, I'm literally deaf right now. The volume is turned up to the max as well, and it's not really had a good impact on my throat and jaw either. Everything hurts at the moment. My head hurts, but we're still persevering. We're still pushing through, keeping strong, and the formation lap is underway. So let's see the tyre allocation. So this time Kick is on the softcore powered tyres. I wonder, did he save a set of softcore powered tyres in qualifying to use them now at this stage in the race? At the beginning of the race, get the best grip and use them. before going over to the medical power tyres. Bearing in mind, there is only 13 laps in this race, so not a long distance either. So the soft core power tyres could be a favourable tyre around here in Silverstone, and hopefully for him it will work. But the rest of the guys, well, surprisingly, Alice Copo, Marco, Ferrari Fatboy, and Billy G are on the hardcore power tyres. So that's quite surprising. Go for a long stint. But I don't know the rules, Miller. You don't have to pit in a sprint race, do you?
Well, it's not a sprint race. It's just a 25% race, so then the same rules apply as a 50% race. So you do have to make a pit stop with 25% race, but in a sprint race you wouldn't. But right now you would have to. But the start of the hard tire is still an interesting choice in my opinion.
Yeah, you are correct. It's not a sprint race. It's a 25% race, so my bad there. But yeah, interesting choices for the drivers down there in the midfield, and the majority on soft core power tyres, and a few other have chosen to go for the medium core power tyres. So in the last race in Spain, it looks like mediums to hards worked out, but Razviel, he did make it work out, but was in the wrong position at the wrong time, got stuck in a peculiar situation, couldn't get past Kick with his immaculate defending and stay behind him. So he was on the right tire at the right time, but unfortunately for him, it just didn't pay off for him at all, and couldn't make the overtakes he needed to as well. He was, you know what, I got to give respect, because it's the first time I've seen him race, and respectfully, he was clean as well and didn't really make contact, and he was audacious, aggressive down the inside, but still didn't make any sort of contact. So massive respect for Raz there. My first time seeing him, and hopefully he can produce some really good races in the future. So all our 20 drivers are lined up on the grid then, ready for this fabled race here at the home of British Motorsport Formula 1. Silverstone is about to begin very shortly. This is where it all began in 1950, with Farina winning the first race in Silverstone and winning the championship in 1950. The lights are about to go away on the gantry. 3, 4, 5 lights. The British Grand Prix is go. We are underway, and Kit gets a mega start on. He's left behind the guys behind too. His mum and Nick had a massive wheel spin there, and he stays where he is for the time being. Other people had a bad start too, as we flick our way through the first few corners on the racetrack towards the first heavy braking zone where carnage can be caused, and hopefully all these drivers can keep their nose clean. 3 abreast between the 2 Mercedes and the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin there gets pinched to the outside, and the Cadillac of Klaus that goes through goes up into P9 ahead of the Aston Martin. But here comes Fireblaze and Ivan wheel to wheel in the breakers of the Brooklyns. Ivan hooking the inside line there, and Fireblaze swooping around the outside to maintain his position in P3 and keeps hold of P3, whilst his teammate Kick is pulling away in the foreground on the soft compound tyres. But will Ivan fancy a move going in towards Cop's corner? He backs off it and doesn't decide to do so far. So hopefully all 20 drivers are keep pointing in the right direction. It's Aston Martin. McLaren goes side by side through Maggots and Beckett to go, but Gags KK inches forwards and ahead of the McLaren driver, as Gags now puts himself inside the top 10. Marco doing a relatively good job in P8 on the hardcore power tyres. I expected him to struggle, but here comes Fireblaze on the attack immediately, and Mum and Nick is out wide, and Fireblaze does a switchback, but does he? The battery has been depleted. There's no battery at all. Down the inside goes Raz on the Audi van, as Fireblaze and Mum and Nick continue the squabble towards the final corner. Mum and Nick stays ahead, but all this battling is allowing Kick to pull away from the guys behind, so he's broken that 1 second gap over Nick and Fireblaze. Fireblaze is not giving up just yet, as we see the guys behind in battle too. That is Ivan and Raz there. Ivan somehow stays ahead of Raz, despite Raz throwing one down the inside in towards the final corners. Or in the back where Ferrari has he spun. Pabelli has kept it pointing in the right direction. He was all squirrely and loose out of the loop there, but luckily for him, still keeps going, and he's in P6 behind this gaggle of cars who are all fighting away intensely. But Mummy Nick has brought the gap down to 9/10 of a second. He's squirming away. He's pushing really hard to try and bring the gap down under a second, but Fireblaze is attacking him once again. I think these two should be careful of attacking each other, because if they keep attacking, Kick will keep pulling away and therefore break the gap over 1 second. But these cars everywhere. Look at this. Fireblaze goes through, and now the 2 Audis getting involved as well in the P7 action. But Fireblaze now is released up into P2. He was constantly harassing Mummy Nick and never left him alone until Mummy Nick had to yield and give way. But both Audis are coming back. Here comes Ivan. He's taking 2 of them on. Here comes Razfiel side by side there with Mummy Nick, and Mummy Nick has been shuffled down into P5. So all that battle was cost him, and now Raz is side by side with Fireblaze in the braking zone on lap 2. Oh, there's barely any space there. Fireblaze, I dare say, could have gave a bit more space towards Raz. Raz was pinched on the inside curb there, had nowhere to go, and now he's a ghost inside Mummy Nick. Mummy Nick now goes up into P4, but what a chaotic first 3 laps of this race. That's what you expect around here in Silverstone and on the battery too, as Ivan has brought the gap down to 0.3 of a second, so Kick's advantage has been hugely wiped out as Marco and Pabellia go side by side through the loop, and Marco now goes up into P7, defending for the soft runners, and Razfiel is fighting away, but Kick and Ivan, look at this, in the breaker zone. Kick maintains the outside line and preserves his lead, but he's already struggling. Ivan is right on the gearbox of Kick again as we go through Brooklands, Luffield and Woodcut we go. Ivan stays behind, but Kick is under massive pressure. He is not able to pull away on those soft compound tyres and therefore has to conceal with Ivan, Fire, Raz and Mummy Nick, who are super close once again, like they were in the Spanish Grand Prix. But Milan, I will let you talk for a bit. Sorry.
No problem, mate. So we're at the end of lap 3, and Ivan once again will have a look at the back of the Red Bull of Kick, but not quite close enough to make any moves so far. Fireblaze trying to close the gap down a little bit more as well, as Kick goes a little bit wide there through Stowe, but doesn't go off track, keeps his Red Bull within the wide lines for the time being. Razfiel and Mominick also following close, but Mominick seems to be struggling a little bit with the battery, but still stays within that 1 second window of the top 4 ahead. Then it's Adams in P6, just outside that 1 second window, followed by his teammate Marco, who's on the hard tires, so he will be going long in this first stint, in this very short race, it must be said, but he's got a long train following closely behind as well. With the 2 Mercedes there, followed closely by Rebelli, Apex George, Gax and Klosser in P11 in the midfield. But at the front, the gaps are closing. Here comes Ivan. He's closing the gap. He decides not to go to the move, not for the move on Kick, as Marco overtakes his teammate. But Ivan deciding to stay behind for the time being to conserve that battery. They both have got a full battery to deploy. But I bet by the end of the lap, it's going to be completely empty once again. As Adams has gone for a moment, he's gone for a spin on the exit of turn 7, and it is such a difficult corner to go on throttle because when the battery activates, you completely lose the traction, and it's so difficult to keep the point in the right direction. Not sure what the Aston Martin of Dorman was doing there, as he let the Mercedes go, and now finds himself off track and being overtaken by Atlas Coppo, drops down to P13. So interesting lines there from Dorn, but Ivan stays close to Kick, but just waits until probably Kick is going to dive into the pit lane, but he's going to stay out for one more lap, but he must be feeling the effects of the tire wear already at the end of a lap, because tire wear is quite high around this track. As Apex George is going to pull into the pit lane, he's going to be the first one to do so, starting on the soft tires. At the moment he is the only one, as everyone else deciding to stay out and extend their stint a little bit, to have the tire advantage, but towards the end of the race. Kick now once again under real pressure from Ivan. 0.2 of a second is the difference between the two, so they both have completely charged their battery once more, and Fireblaze is just sitting behind right now and waiting for something to happen up ahead. And Razfiel and Muminick definitely struggling to stay close. Definitely seems like it's going to be a 3-way fight between these 3. Unless Razfiel Muminick can close that gap back down, but they're having to use a lot of their battery to remain close to the top 3. As Apex George has come out on P20, he's 9 seconds behind the rest of the field. Let's see if he can make any undercut on anyone ahead of him. So we're halfway through lap 5 now, as Kick is really slow there out of Cobb's corner, but Ivan doesn't really want to go for the move into Maggot's back. He don't really want to go side by side through the S's there. But now he is really starting to put the pressure on the Red Bull, who probably is going to pull up into the pit lane very, very soon indeed, as Ivan using the battery, but still staying behind for the time being, as Gax picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, as Kick very slow out of the corner, and there he goes into the pit lane. If Ivan is going to follow him in, Fireblaze has to stay out, as that is Ivan hitting the back of Kick. That is almost getting themselves a speeding the pit lane penalty, but luckily for them, they get it slowed down just in time. But Fireblaze is going to continue on, and once again, there's Ivan going into the pit lane very, very early indeed. But Mominik and Fireblaze having to stay out because they don't want to double stack. You will lose a lot of time with that. And let's hope they don't get out in much traffic. Ivan and Kick should be Kick ahead of Ivan. Ivan's going to the mediums or to the hard tires, whilst Kick is on to the mediums. So different strategies being used between the front runners. And I wonder what the what Fireblaze and Mominik are doing. But Kick going for an aggressive strategy and having that tire advantage immediately into a stint. And let's see if he can try and build a gap. Whilst Fireblaze, Razville and Mominik stay out for one more lap before they make their pit stop.
Look at that huge train of cars right in front of Kick, but luckily got a bit of a gap, which is about 1.7 seconds. But given the pace we've seen from these guys, they'll instantly catch up in a heartbeat. So Raz and Fireblaze left out there, but Raz looks like he's going for a move on Fireblaze. He's super close, and right to the back of him goes through Magus Zabekis as Dora gets past Alex Copo as he goes back up into P6 there in the Aston Martin. Adams has been promoted back into P5. We know he had that wee spin out on Lufia, but looks like he's recovered so far. Raz is going for the overtake. This is not really wise thing to do, going wheel to wheel. They know they're in a fight with the guys behind, and they're still continuing, so I'm not quite sure why they were battling there, as Mum and Nick is peeling off the pit lane. Do you think, well, I think this could be a good idea for these two to stay out, because I think Ivan and Kick are traffic. Yeah, they're in traffic. Look at them fighting their way through. Here comes Kick on the racing bull as he goes around the outside there as well. Pep Wog goes around the outside, and here comes Ivan going around the outside too. So I think that the racing bull, smooth operator, has been completely mugged, as we say in English, on the straight there as well. But so where are Ivan and Kick? So they're in P10. P10 and P11 as the guys behind the pit of 2. Next target now is Nightcreed and Oreo Glass, and they're right behind too. So I wonder how much effect these guys are having being stuck behind the traffic. Is this allowing Fireblaze and Razville just try and build that gap a little bit over the guys behind? It's very important for Kick to get past the racing bull driver, who lets him go, which is quite surprising. Or is he side by side? He doesn't let him go. He stays ahead, and Kick once again will have to try and fight his way through on the sister team, who is slowing him down in the worst possible time. He has to make this move now around the outside. Can he do it? He should be able to do it. On those better mini compound tyres, he does it. And Ivan follows swiftly through as well. Next target is Oreo Glass there. Will he be mugged in towards cops? No, he doesn't, as Kick has to get out the throttle not to hit the back of the Cadillac. And Kick and also Ivan is through as well. So I think it's time for Razville and Fireblaze to pit. They do pit, and I believe Fireblaze overtook Razville as well before he goes to pit. So that was very good there. Marco will take the lead of the British GP on those mini compound tyres. He's yet to pit, so expect him to pit in the next few laps. So the hard compound tyres go for a longer stint, but I'm quite surprised to see him on those hard compound tyres there, but let's see if it pays off for him or not. So let's see, where is Fireblaze and Phil going to rejoin? It's a long pit lane, and Nightcreed has retired in this race in the pit lane. But where is the Red Bull and the Audi? Here they come through turn 1 and turn 2. You can see them going through, and they rejoined well ahead, which is a nice undercut indeed. And they should have track position out of the pit lane, which they do. So Kick and Ivan, P3 and P4. Fireblaze and Razville are on the soft compound tyres. So that's an audacious strategy with 5 laps left to go. Can they hunt down their predecessor of Kick and Ivan, their teammates? And Fireblaze is stuck behind him and Nick. He needs to make a move now, because if he doesn't, he'll be stuck behind the Audi driver and the Red Bull driver, who's of course on a much better tyre, wants to progress through the field rather than going backwards. I hope for Fireblaze this is a brand new set of soft compound tyres he saved during qualifying, because I think a few drivers realised that they should have saved a set of soft compound tyres for this race. But Fireblaze is still stuck behind him and Nick, and here he comes. He pulls out of him and Nick, and well, that sounded wrong, but anyways, Fireblaze goes up into Fireblaze goes up into P5 ahead of the Dutchman, and next up Razville should get the move done too. The gap is 1.5 seconds, so Fireblaze is catching rapidly on Ivan and also Kick as well as teammates, as we see Razville overtake the Audi driver as well. Razville there and Fireblaze on a charge on those soft compound tyres. They will be hunting down the 2 ahead of them. Those 2 pulled off an immaculate stint on those mini compound tyres. Now they switched over to the soft compound tyres, the better tyres towards the end, and now Kick and Ivan are in a heap of trouble, and the win is in jeopardy in peril and jeopardy.
Fireblaze has almost immediately closed that gap down to almost under a second. He's not going to have the boost mode on this particular lap, but on the next one he might, because the gap's down to 9/10 of a second. He's bringing the Rasfield with him. Mominic's still there as well, but he's on those hard tires, so he won't be as quick as these two. But what about Ivan and Kik, as Adams is still staying out on those old medium tires? His teammate made his pit stop at the end of the previous lap, so he couldn't pull into the pit lane, but Marco unfortunately picked up a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so his result will be affected by that, as he will definitely drop behind, as they're quite close in the midfield together, as Fireblaze is just around a second behind Ivan, but he's run completely out of the battery, so whilst Ivan and Kik are still saving up that battery, so might not be as easy as it looked like for Fireblaze to close that gap, because he's having to use a lot of battery to get closer to them, and at the moment he's still not within the 1 second window to have the boost mode on to the next lap. So if Kik and Ivan work together a little bit, they still could have a chance of winning this race, because the gap is now down, or we're up to 1.4 seconds as Adams finally pulls into the pit lane for his one and only pit stop, as there were yellow flags briefly there through Cobb's corner. So Kik will be back out in front on track ahead of Ivan, and Fireblaze was unable to close the gap towards Ivan on this lap, and there's 4 laps remaining, and I need to get close as soon as possible, otherwise these tires will not be any better than the mediums and the hards that the 2 drivers ahead of him have, because the soft tires wear out quite quickly compared to the other tires, as Rasfield is staying close as well, whilst saving up some battery as well, so he might be the one to overtake Fireblaze potentially, and then they could potentially work together to chase after the top 2 in this race. But once again, we've got the same top 5 as in Barcelona, fighting it out for the race win, all within 1 second of each other right now. But can Fireblaze keep it that way? He's also run a bit low on fuel, but hopefully with some lifting coasting he could bring that fuel delta to over or in the green again, as there goes Rasfield as he blasts to the inside of Fireblaze and puts himself back at the P3, and now he is within 1 second of Ivan and Kik, so it's actually going to help Fireblaze as well a little bit, because he was struggling with the battery. Now he's under massive pressure from Mominik, who's going to have a go on the inside of Fireblaze, and Fireblaze now dropping down to P5, but maybe with some when we move around the outside as they go wheel to, it just doesn't quite have to grip as he runs off track, and he drops down to P5. Mominik back up into P4. So Fireblaze not in the advantage right now. Rasfield will have the boost mode going on to the next lap, but not really as close as he would have wanted, as Ivan is closing that gap towards Kik, but he's going to be waiting until the final lap to make that move on the Red Bull driver. There's still 3 laps remaining in this race. Kik leads, but he slides his way through the braking zone of turn 3 on those older medium tires, and Ivan is looking left and right, try and see potentially an opportunity to take away the lead of this race, but I think he's going to be waiting until the very last lap, although he's going to go potentially to the inside, not quite. He is going to sit behind for the time being and wait until the very last lap, as Rasfield still struggling to keep it under a second, and those soft tires, the advantage that they had, is starting to fade as well as the lap ticks by. So that is going to be tricky as well. Here comes Ivan side by side with Kik. He's going to go for the move into Cobb's corner as he takes the lead of this race. Not really sure why he would go for the move right there. But Ivan now ahead of Kik. And can he build a gap with his hard tires, or will he be under pressure immediately on the next straight from the Red Bull?
Indeed, there's about 2 laps left to go after this. And once again, Rasfield is not able to close in and making a pressure on these 2 at all. So this is really good pace despite these 2 fighting, and Kik to the inside of Stu as they're wheel to wheel now, but Ivan swoops on the outside, and Kik is coming back on the Audi driver, headed down towards the final few corners this way. Where is he? He's backed off there. I was trying to find him on board with Ivan, but he's backed off, and somehow, despite all this battling, Ivan and Raz can't get closer. So these 2 have got such relentless pace on their medium and hardcore power tyres. The top 3 are different tyres, mediums, hards, and softcore power tyres, but the softcore power tyres are not working at this stage. I think their peak performance have gone. The softcore power tyres is more like a qualified tyre than a race tyre, and 2-3 laps of those softcore power tyres are basically just done now. So I think the advantage has gone back towards Kik and Ivan now, as these 2 settle the debate on who is going to win the Silverstone race here in Britain. And last time out, it was Ivan who won the Spanish Grand Prix, and Kick would like to get his get back and revenge at Ivan. But where can he coordinate and plan his attack at the right time? Where can he strike? What is he going to do in this race? And here it comes. That's the answer right now. Kick will take the lead before Cops and put himself into first place, but is that the wise thing to do? Because Ivan now is right at the back of him. This is going to be a ding-dong battle all the way to the end of this race on lap 13. And look at this. I thought for 1 second Ivan might try one around the outside. And Razviel is closer than ever, so late to the party, better late than never, but he's finally joined the back of this cavalry. And it's going to be a showdown all the way through. The same top five is the same top five back in Spain. These five have such relentless pace to keep on top of each other and put each other under massive pressure. They've kept it nice and clean, all five of them. I've not really seen anything major from those guys. Pabelli has gone for a spin at the exit there of, I think it was Buckingham Chapel. I think it was there, so fortunately for him, gone for a spin. But back towards the front, lap 13 at 30, the last lap of this race, Zenom picking up track limits. But the main focus is on these two, or possibly these five, as Razviel's still there. But Ivan looking at 100% battery he could use on Kick. Dump it all. Where is he going to dump it all? Is it here? Is it down towards Cops? Is it Stowe? We're about to find out. But he's saving battery though, just trying to get closer and closer and set the Red Bull driver up. He does have overtake mode, which gives a slight advantage and more power down the straights than the guy ahead of you who has no overtake left, or no overtake available to him. He's relying on pure battery, as you can see there. No blue mode there for Kick. He's relying on his straight line speed and his battery saver to help him down the hanger straight going into Stowe. But Ivan on the other hand has saved up battery 50%, which he will dump all down the straight, and Kick might be vulnerable. Let's see what happens then as we come out of Chapel for the final time in this race. All the electrical battery will be dumped on the straight. Can Ivan get close enough to go down the inside? He can't. He stayed, but Kick goes wide. Is this going to open up a advantage for Ivan? Ivan, here he comes. Inside, outside. It's the outside line. Let's see if Ivan can make the move stick. He can't. Oh, it's going to be contact, surely. Surely not. They go wheel to wheel out of the final corner. Who is going to win? It is Kick. They made, oh my goodness me.
Oh my God.
They made contact, and I thought for one second, Ivan, Raz will win the race because those two spun around, and I thought that Razviel was going to win the British GP. But Kick has won here in Silverstone, just ahead of Ivan. Those two made contact on the line. They were super close at the exit, but Kick just managed to hold on and defend from Ivan. And Ivan will have to settle for second place. Raz on the podium again. Mummy Nick in P4, Fireblaze in P5, Apex George, the best of the rest, in P6 there. In the McLaren, sorry about that. Marco and Adams 7 and 8. Adams, he had to recover back in Spain after losing his wing and recover once again in Silverstone to finish in P8. Pabelli P9 ahead of Klausler. The Dutchman rounds up the top 10. Doran, Gags in the pit lane, but Atlas Copo, Oreo Glass, Smooth Operator, Billy G, Preb 1, Zenom, Floyd Fatboy and Nike, the only retirement in this race. But that is the end of the British GP, folks, and hopefully you all enjoyed that as we're just waiting for Roy Fatboy to cross the line and end this race. But Zenom there, who's going super. Zenom has run out of fuel, which is quite surprising. How on earth did he manage to run out of fuel in this race? Because there's been a lot of lifting and coasting, but it looks like he's underfueled the car massively, but hasn't done a lot of lifting and coasting. So unfortunately for him, he ran out of gas in the tank and has to trundle home back to the pit, back to the finish line in 90th place there. As he crawls towards the line, he goes. They both run out of fuel, for Fat Boy and Zenom. So how on earth did they do that? But anyways, the race is done, and hopefully when the next season starts, we can see some great racing. But hopefully these guys can be more bunched up because they're not separated into tiers just yet. Because obviously, if they were separated into tiers right now, it'll be a massive unfair advantage from the guys behind. It'd be like real life F1, where there's a massive field spread from first down to wherever. It's a massive field spread. But luckily these guys will be sorted into a tier and predict where they'll be in the next upcoming season. But anyways, Milan Langer, we're back together, and I just want to say I thoroughly missed commentating with you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure despite me being ill.
I agree. It was a lot of fun again, and great to be back alongside you after a long break. in the last few weeks. But like I said, yeah, it was really good fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. This was a fun evening as well with these 2 races. Definitely enjoyed my time, and looking forward to the next one, mate.
It did then. So if we're back here, if we're back here next week, hopefully we will be. But if we're not, then it's a goodbye and a pleasure to you all. And I'll see you guys whenever. Take care and enjoy the rest. Enjoy the weekend. Yeah, it's Monday. It's